Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello kids and cubs, and welcome to season 6 and episode number, I believe it is 926 of the daily, no, 927 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian and always beaverific. Yes, indeed. Today, recording day is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. And it is a grayish day here at the Beaver Lodge, as you can tell, because if you've been watching recently, when it's a nice day, there's a whole bunch of sunlight reflecting on my face. And today, the color is all even, which means a gray day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. How is your mental health doing today, kids and cubs? I am doing pretty well, actually. I am tired. I've had terrible sleep for pretty much the last month, so I'm a little tired, but in good spirits. Unfortunately, and those of you who saw my post about this, a little delayed because my beaver sweetie decided to give me a gift, and the reason for which there is a spoon. If you've ever seen the movie Get Out. The reason there's a spoon, I'm not going to hypnotize you, don't worry. The reason there is a spoon in my cup of beaver moistener is because today it is ginger tea with honey and not hot chocolate or fruity smoothie or just water, because my beaver sweetie decided to give me a gift. His cold. Thank you, my love. Woke up with really stuffed up nose and a bit of a scratchy and actually quite a bit scratchy and sore throat, actually. So hopefully this will be soothing, and I needed a couple of exits for the decongestions to kick in. If I've been talking to you, something about this right now. So yeah. Yeah, a little slow right in here, feeling a little foggy, but in a good mood. In a good mood. Went out to play volleyball yesterday with the group because again it's Pride Week, and so we had our Pride volleyball thing, and I don't get to get out there as often as I would usually. But they play on Tuesday nights, and during the fall, winter, and spring season, I play curling, so I only get to join them a little bit after that, and when at a school. So we rent the school, but when the academic academic year is over, the school gym is not available for rental, so we take a hiatus for the summer, or just try to do some beach volleyball instead. But it's a little less organized, let's put it that way. Um, so there was yesterday, and next week is the last week, and then we break for the summer. So yesterday, even though I was a little exhausted, I hadn't been in the last few weeks, and my Beaver sweetie turned around and said, it's like, "Oh, please, please, please come today." And I was like, I was really just not going to. And then I found, it's like every now and then, it's like you you do things for the people that you love, even if you're a little tired. And I had been promising that I would go for, the last couple of weeks, and it's just every time it came, it's like, dude, I'm just so wiped. So yesterday I pushed through, and had a wonderful time. It took me hard. It was hard for me to get there, but once I got there, I got into it and started playing. Played relatively well. Again, didn't start off gloriously there too, but played well. It had been a while since I got to play with them, so it was a lovely evening. Just time to see some friends, meet some new people that joined the group in the meantime. And then after that, we went out to a restaurant for a quick bite because we usually do that. And a really interesting thing happened. They do have, as you know, I eat gluten free, and they had a menu there where they had some options, and it's a place I've been to before. So I ordered something that I had had before that I know is good and filling, and not too heavy because it's later at night. So they had a beautiful salad that has portobello mushroom and some salmon, some I think goat cheese and spinach, and nice balsamic with some tomatoes and stuff. It's really quite yummy. Uh, and I ordered and told them to I'm not just ordering from the gluten free menu because I like gluten free stuff. I actually am gluten free, so made a note of that and says okay, let the kitchen know. And the plate got there, and I took one bite, and then I went down to look for another bite, and there was a crouton in the salad, which could make me very, very, very sick. And then I didn't know if there were any more anywhere else, so I brought it to their attention. And I have to say, I have been living with this knowingly, knowing what was wrong with me, since about mm, I think we figured it out around the age of like 29 or 30 or something, what was wrong with me. So, easily a good to 20 years. And never, ever, ever have I been to a restaurant that when they found out there was an error with my food, that was so concerned about the error, so mortified about having made the error. Um, I do not know. I cannot count the number of times they apologized. I cannot count the number of times they checked in to see if everything was okay with the new plate. I cannot count the number of times. Um, just there was lots of attention, and they were proactively comped my entire meal, which has never, ever, ever happened in 20 something years. Um, so if you are ever in the Limestone City or in Kingston or somewhere, I don't know if every restaurant, this is a whole chain policy, but because I think there might be a chain, it's a restaurant called One-Eyed Jack's. And if they have other locations in Canada, um, hey, I was absolutely um, overwhelmed, very touched by the care, the attention. Um, of course, left a very generous tip in order to let people know that yeah, this is the standard, and thank you so much for meeting it because it has never been met. Um, so yeah, just wanted to give some free advertising and a shout out to One-Eyed Jacks, particularly the one in Kingston, because, like I said, you know that I think was it last year. I went to go see Hamilton in Montreal and had another incident where I let the restaurant know and never heard from the restaurant at all. So, you know, um, the difference between, so, dudes, you, nearly sent me to the hospital, and, I didn't get so much as a, "Oh, sorry, we did that." And then this one, you know, I didn't need to go to the hospital because I didn't have a reaction or whatnot because I didn't touch it. And they were all falling all over themselves with apologies and comped the meal, right? Complete different level of service. So, yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm a unique person. Most would try to nuke the restaurant from orbit after that. Well, I thought of that with regard to the other one, but I left a review to let people know that if they do have allergies or food sensitivities, that might not be the best place to go to. The food was delicious. The service was great at the restaurant itself. But yeah, that the people that were serving the food clearly did not know what was in it because 20 minutes after I ate, oh boy, that was a that was a bad night. Let's just put it that way. And of course, as you know, I ended up missing the show, falling asleep during it after the medications that I took and everything kicked in. So yeah, um, like I said, you never know when things like that are going to happen, and good customer service definitely deserves to be praised because sometimes there's not enough of it. So yeah, interesting evening. Had a little bit of an adventure last night. All right, let's get into it because even though I got something I didn't want yesterday, cold, and of course, um, uh, a dish that had croutons in it, uh, um, I did get something I have been begging for a long time, and that's a slow news day. Oh my god, the last few weeks have just been, and just, lots of announcements and drama and scandals and all that kind of stuff, and I'm this morning, actually, the news digest that I get every morning, didn't even come out. So, I don't know if there was just so little news they didn't even feel that it was worth putting out a digest today. But yeah, um, yeah. Uh, Kid Palm here. I usually avoid the restaurants I can see for a while from. Maybe that's a maybe that's some sound advice there. Oh my. Um, yes, yes, Kitla, the crouton subterfuge caper. Turns out actually, it wasn't just one that had been like knocked off. Because sometimes you pick up a plate and it bangs on something, something falls off, right? It's not malicious. It's not like it was something that was made and it was like croutons all over the place. Like I just saw one, but I stopped eating because I didn't know if there were any more. Apparently, they actually even took time to check through the entire dish and they said, yeah, there were two more in it. So something happened somewhere. Because I mean, nobody makes a dish with croutons that only puts 3 croutons in it, right? So I'm figuring it might have been, they finished maybe a batch of, spinach that was used in something else that had croutons in it, and, the maybe that's what happened or something. But anyway, all's well that ends well, as, William Shakespeare would say. Little shout out to the, uh, new scary movie or whatnot that's coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing that. All right, kids and cubs, let's get into it because when we have a Seal News Day, that means we get to catch up on a lot of stuff. Now, there is still a main story today because, as you know, or as you may know, because we mentioned it on the show a couple weeks ago when the House came back to sit after the last short constituency break, it was scheduled to sit for about a month before we rise for the summer break. And right now, where we stand, we have, including today, 8 more days of house sitting to go. Well, what do you know? Just came in for the day.
um, so yeah, uh, just under 2 weeks to go, and around that time, um, well, first of all, there's the silly season, what they call it. People in the House of Commons start to usually getting a little upset and antsy, sometimes saying some weird things to try to grab some attention. I don't know why people tend to get a little, um, I don't know what the word is, particularly ornery or um, in a froth as the break is about to come. Maybe it's because for certain parties, it's their last seconds to get publicly funded clips. And they're trying to make the most of them. And then just maybe over emote, ham it up a little, you know. Uh, hey, it happens. But there is some stuff to do. Usually, also, often, the government will start arranging stuff so that the House can sit a little later, so that they can get the bills through and all that kind of stuff. But according to, let's see if I can bring this up for you, and hopefully it is not behind paywall, because I did forget to check that before I put it on the schedule. Uh, there we go. According, it is indeed behind paywall. Ah, darn. Okay, I'm not going to be able to do as much as I thought I would with this story. Um, darn, that's too bad. Uh, there, there's a certain number of bills that are there that are looking to be passed, they're looking to be debated, that the government would like to move on. There's a certain of them that have been recently passed, and wow, you know what? I should have actually checked that before I put it on the thing, so I could give you much more detailed information. Usually, I have access to this, but today not seem to, which is very interesting. How I might be able to find it another way, actually. Haha. Um, but one of the bills that had been being talked about is the online, the hate crimes bill, I believe it was. And that one actually recently did get through the House and got approval. And it was delayed a little bit because the Senate was trying some amendments, and there were three of them, I think, that were proposed, and actually one of them passed, I believe. Uh, no, not hate crimes in Canada, the hate crimes bill. Canada. Thank you so much. There we go. So 5 days ago, it's Bill C9 that has passed. And this is according to the Canadian Constitution Foundation. Just want to make sure that this is um, an actual credible site. Yes, and not like one of those ones that keep on funding the stuff from the rebel. With Bill C9, which is the Combating Hate Act, the bill was the Liberal government's response to a rise in hatred. The bill had raised concerns about its impact on civil liberties and religious speech. Hundreds of thousands of Canadians had written to Parliament to oppose the bill. The guide, and it says here, um, talks about it and says that the status is that it has passed the three readings in the Senate and the House of Commons. Because the Senate amended the bill slightly, there's going to be one more vote in the House of Commons to confirm that amendment, which the government has already agreed to support. The bill will head to the Governor General's desk for royal assent. When the Governor General signs the bill, it will formally be law, and the bill will come into force, meaning the changes will take effect 30 days later. Now, one of the things, the amendments that tried is that people from really
religious communities, the type of religious communities that happen to be particularly triggered by rainbows, particularly in the month of June for some reason. Don't know why. Wanted a good faith religious expression defense from convictions for criminal hate speech. In other words, they wanted to say that this book that I read or this deity that I worship tells me that I'm allowed to hate certain people and that you're not allowed to condemn me for that because I'm going to use the shield of my faith from which to hide while I commit these crimes in order to avoid responsibility for them. And that was voted down in the House of Commons, and then it went to the Senate, and then a senator tried to introduce it again, and the amendment lost. And now the amendment lost by only one vote. In However, the amendment lost by a whole lot more. It was voted down, didn't actually make it into the legislation whatsoever. And then, and the bill itself, without the legislation, without the amendment, had passed as well. Now I'm just looking at this. I've got all the Senate bills here, and I'm looking for the House of Commons bills. And there we go. It's on the second page, even. Wow, they have been really busy. So when it went, sorry, let me take a look at this here. I'm just going to bringing up the actual vote here on third reading. It was voted. This is without. This was on Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, and it passed 186 yeas to 137 nays. Okay, without that exemption for good faith religious expression defense. It is illegal under Section 319 of the Criminal Code to publicly incite hatred by communicating statements in any public place that incites hatred against any identifiable group where such incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace. It's also illegal under Section 319, paragraph 2, I'm going to guess it is, of the Criminal Code to communicate statements, quote, other than in private conversation that, quote, willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group. And under 319 2.1, to willfully promote anti-Semitism by, quote, communicating statements other than in private conversation, condoning, denying, or downplaying the Holocaust. The penalties for these crimes are up to 2 years in prison. Before Bill C-9, if a person charged with public incitement of hatred, willful promotion of hatred, or willful promotion of anti-Semitism could establish that they, quote, in good faith, expressed or attempted to establish by an argument, an opinion, or on a religious subject, or an opinion based on a belief in a religious text. That would have been a full defense to the charge. This means they would not be convicted. Bill C-9 has removed this defense, putting Canadians at greater risk of charges for religious speech. Okay, so this definitely is from the Canadian Constitution Foundation is definitely really right-wing, because even though people have been claiming this, Bill C-9 does not put Canadians at greater risk of charges for religious speech. It does not, because I do not know any religious speech that says go out and kill all these people, or distribute violence or ask for violence to be caused upon people, right? So the people, some of the people doing this are claiming that because the Senate amendment lost by just one, that this fight is not over, and even though we our deeply, sincerely, and deeply held religious beliefs, have been denied this time. There was such overwhelming response to that. Yeah, yes, there probably was. The problem with that is that the overwhelming response from people, most likely people that have been at the receiving end of that type of hate, and people love them, was greater. Yes, you see, because there are probably more people that have suffered at the hands of that type of hate than there are people who commit it. In fact, I know because, um, again, most people who are people of faith don't abuse of their faith in order to do harm to other people. But there are certain people who love to do harm to other people, and they are always people who purport to be able to tell you what God or whoever they worship wants. And I'm always um, suspicious of such people because for some reason, whatever their God wants always seems to dovetail perfectly with what it is that they want. It's just funny how it's a coincidence that God believes everything they believe. Hmm, interesting. So, no, that did not pass. Now, something that did pass in it, the one amendment that did pass is that the symbol of a noose, using that, given yes, if you happen to be familiar with slavery and discrimination against Black people, the noose has a very specific significance, doesn't it? So, use of that uh, in representations that call for that type of thing, that has definitely been included um, as a symbol of hate, and there was also a push from the indigenous community to add residential school denialism along with Holocaust denialism as a hate crime, and unfortunately, that amendment also did not pass. According to the AFN, um, this is on June 5th. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepadak today denounced the move by the Senate of Canada to reject an amendment to Bill C9, often referred to as the Hate Crimes Bill, that would have included Indian residential denialism as an offense. Quote, the move by the Senate to reject this amendment is regressive and a setback for survivors and for reconciliation, said National Chief Woodhouse-Neepadak. Indian residential school denialism is a hate crime and must be treated as a hate crime. There has always been willful, ignorant denialism, but we now face a growing organized movement of denialists trying to rewrite Canada's history. We need to push back on these offensive lies and to stand up for the truth. We lift up Senator Karatak-Lindell for her amendment and all senators who supported it, but we deeply disappointed in their colleagues who rejected truth and justice. Earlier this week, Nunavut Senator Nancy Karatak-Lindell put forward an amendment to Bill C9 that would criminalize Indian residential school denialism. The amendment passed the Senate's Human Rights Committee with broad support, but the amendment was rejected by the Senate as a whole in a vote of 32 to 41. The AFN has national resolutions for First Nations and Assembly calling on Canada to criminalize Indian residential school denialism. Quote, we will continue to press Canada to work with survivors, elders, and First Nations leadership to create legislation or amend existing legislation to criminalize Indian residential school denialism, said the national chief. Canada has in the past amended the criminal code to penalize hate speech and denial. It's time for legislation that criminalizes hate speech and denial of the Indian residential schools. This work is more important and urgent than ever as we sadly lose more survivors and others who bore witness to the horrific reality of the Indian residential school. Truth is essential for reconciliation. So, understandably, they are not particularly thrilled with this. So, yes, the bill had originally passed the House in March 25th and then went to the Senate. And it spent a lot of time in the Senate. which is really interesting. Back in March, it said that Bill C9, dubbed the Combating Hate Act, proposes new criminal code offenses, including one that would make it a crime to intentionally promote hatred against identifiable groups in public using certain hate or terrorism-related symbols. And that's where the noose wasn't included originally, and through the Senate amendments, they added it. The bill passed third reading with support of the Bloc Québécois. Conservatives and the NDP voted against the legislation. Interesting that the NDP voted against it. The Liberals got Bloc support by including a clause that would remove the religious exemption from Canada's hate speech law. So this came from the Bloc Québécois, putting that amendment in the actual legislation that went through the House, because Quebec, of course, is on that big secularism push, and therefore they wanted that removed. The federal government had no problem with that, and there we go. The criminal code currently includes an exemption for hate speech. Quote, if in good faith the person expressed or attempted to establish by an argument an opinion on a religious subject or an opinion based on behalf of a religious text. Again, it has to be in good faith, and I do not know how you call for violence to be committed upon other people in good faith. The Conservatives aggressively pushed back against the inclusion of the clause that would remove that exemption, arguing it mounted to, quote, an assault on religious freedoms. Maybe this is a freedom you shouldn't want. Just saying. A number of religious groups also raised concerns about the removal of the religious exemption. Civil Liberties Group, including the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, have also raised concerns about the bill, arguing it could criminalize peaceful protest and silence on popular expression. Justice Minister Sean Fraser, who sponsored the bill and brokered the deal with the Bloc, has pushed back, saying the new legislation won't criminalize faith, which is protected under the Constitution explicitly. The Senate must study the bill before it officially becomes law, which it did. The upper chamber may still make suggestions to change the legislation, which it had. One amendment, which is why it's going back to the House for one more vote. And as the articles, previous article stated, it looks like nobody, well, at least the government is not going to object to the addition of the noose as a symbol of hate. So that piece of legislation is making its way through. Hold on. This is something very weird is happening with my screen. I'm so sorry here, kids and cubs. All right. Other things. Let me go back to this because I do have of the morning brief. So there must have been something missing or inaccurate in it. That was I will have to the new one just to make sure that I don't bring you a fact that I'm not supposed to. And I have no idea what the heck has gone wrong with my email. That's really weird. Okay. The way that it displays on my screen, unfortunately, has changed, and I do not have access to the tabs in my email that let me know where my folders are. They seem to have completely vanished and disappeared from my screen, which is very weird. I don't know how or why they did that. They did that overnight while I was sleeping. No, that's not good because it makes it that I can't use my email on my desktop anymore. Not great. All right. According to iPolitics, it also says that government House Leader Stephen McKinnon has filed the necessary paperwork to add a temporary late shift to the parliamentary workday, which is on track to go to a vote yesterday afternoon. And if adopted, I'm not sure if it was, but I assume it was, given that the Liberals have a majority, which, given the government's newly secured majority, would take effect immediately and extend the daily hours until the stroke of midnight, starting last night. 2 days ago in the afternoon, the Liberals had served notice that they're similarly prepared to impose a deadline for a final vote on legislation to formally set up Build Canada Homes, the newly created federal agency, with a mandate to, quote, promote, support, and develop the supply of affordable housing in Canada, and to promote innovative and efficient building techniques in the housing construction sector in Canada. The government was also aiming to wrap up the final round of debate on Justice Minister Sean Fraser's omnibus proposal to strengthen protections against gender-based violence, add new child protection measures, and address issues caused by court delays, which cleared report stage last night. And as time allocation motion adopted last week is now poised to undergo up to 5 more hours of debate before going to a vote. So those are some pieces of legislation that also the government would like to see move forward. Wow, I'm like I said, I do not know what is happening with my computer. This is very, very weird. I just can't, because all my notes, I saved my notes for the show under the drafts tab from my email, but I can't actually access the drafts tab under my email because the to select it had disappeared from the screen. Very strange. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. I don't know what I did, but I managed. I clicked on something and it came back. Hey, not complaining. I'll take the win. Yesterday, as well. Um, so yeah, I'm going to have to move forward on the other thing because the article that I was looking for when I read it before it went behind paywall, I should have just clipped it and taken the notes. Was listing all the other stuff specifically that the government was looking to finish up and shore up the end of the session, and I didn't take the notes. I just put the link in my notes, and I figured it would still be there. And in the meantime, it went behind paywall, so I cannot do that for you. Sue, now that I'm completely thrown, and let's try to gracefully move to other things. Oh boy. It's amazing how you just like you have a plan, and once you hit a speed bump, sometimes you can just be completely thrown. Okay. If I find any more on that, I will bring it to you. Again, I'm so sorry. I should have been more prepared for that to bring you because that was what I was going to go in depth on today. We're going to move to some economic news instead. Yesterday, according to the Financial Post's Paula Tran, we got news that Canada's economy posted the biggest trade surplus in more than a year. It says that Canada posted a trade surplus for the second consecutive month in April, driven primarily by higher prices for oil and energy. The $2.7 billion surplus was the largest since January 2025 and followed a $1.8 billion trade surplus in March, the first trade surplus since September 2025, and a $5.1 trade billion deficit in February. The data published by Statistics Canada on Tuesday showed total exports rose 1.6% to reach a record high of $75.2 billion in April. The increase was driven by energy exports, which increased by 9.7% following a 23.4% increase in March, mainly due to rising prices caused by the war in Iran. Crude oil contributed most to this category, along with exports of refined petroleum energy products. Exports of farm, fishing, and agriculture products also increased by 8.9% in April, their highest level since January 2025. Exports of wheat increased the most, partly due to higher shipments to China. Intermediate food products also contributed to the movement because of higher exports of crude canola oil to the United States. Several other products also contributed to the overall increase in exports, including passenger cars and light trucks, which StatsCan said is associated with a rise in auto production in Canada. But that overall increase was largely offset by 17.5% decrease in exports of metal and non-metallic mineral products in April. Gold, silver, and platinum exports contributed the most to this movement, posting a 25.5% decrease following a sharp increases in February and March, mainly driven by lower shipments of gold to the United Kingdom. Total imports also edged up by 0.3% in April to reach a record of $72.4 billion after the economy posted a 1.6% decrease in March. Imports of industrial, chemical, plastic, and rubber products contributed most to the gain in April, as well as electronic and electrical equipment and parts. Those gains were offset by a 12.9% decline in imports of metal and non-metallic mineral products, mainly driven by gold, silver, and platinum imports. The decrease was attributed to a drop in gold prices and lower purchases of gold, according to StatsCan. Canada's trade surplus with the United States also widened by 4.8% to $9.5 billion in April due to higher exports of crude oil, passenger cars, and light trucks. So this entire trade war that Donald Trump launched upon us because we had they had a negative trade surplus with us isn't helping because well, at least for the month of May, the trade surplus widened. What's going on with gold here, as they're talking about it, is definitely going to keep on happening over the last bit, because over the last 30 days, the price of gold is down 8.9%. The price of gold is down another 2.6% to today. For the first time, the 6-month number for gold is down into the negative territory, down about 0.5%. So basically, the last 6 months of gains in the price of gold have been wiped out in just the past maybe 30 days or so. I'm just looking at the chart here. 60 days or so. Gold came in at greater than $4,800 US per ounce around mid-April, let's say, and has been in a decline pretty much ever since. I was reading something the other day about why is the price of gold dropping. Usually it's a safe haven when things are a little wild. And it would seem that having to do with it is because markets are feeling that what's going on in Iran is going to eventually come to some type of end here. In addition to that, one of the reasons why some of this movement is happening is people are waiting for the release of the U.S. inflation report, which is one of the key indicators influencing U.S. monetary policy directions and global market movements. Markets were also affected by statements from the president, who announced that the U.S. military informed him of downing an advanced Apache helicopter during a patrol mission near the Strait of Hormuz, confirming that the pilot survived the incident without injuries. This is, of course, Donald Trump added that the United States would respond to this attack, which sparked interest in global financial markets and prompted investors to closely monitor political and military developments in the region. And now this is more recent. It doesn't go back to explain the last 2 months. This is sort of the recent drop, because over the last 2-3 days, it's really gone off a cliff. But overall, for the last 60 days, it says the trajectory of gold prices in the coming period remains largely linked to the outcomes of U.S. inflation data and market reactions to it, in addition to monitoring statements and developments related to the geopolitical situation in the Middle East, which may play an important role in determining investors' directions in the coming days. Let's see, what else do we have here? According to Reuters, they're also saying here that should gold investors whoops. Oh my God. I am having a rough day today, man. Okay. Apparently, maybe not, according to Reuters. Ay. Let's try this again. All right. Let's see what I hear. It says here that the latest World Gold Council quarterly report showed that central banks bought about 243.7 metric tons of gold in the first quarter of this year, up 3% from the same quarter in 2025. However, purchases have been leveling off in a range either side of 200 tons per quarter since the start of 2025, and are well below the highs from mid-2022 to the end of 2024, when buying exceeded 300 tons a quarter for 5 quarters, and only once dipped below 200 tons. Jewelry demand is also down in China and in India, which affects it. But there also has to do with regard to monetary policy issues in the United States, because as they are seeing bond yields go up, um, people are thinking that they might be able to get more money by investing in bonds than maintaining gold, that the value proposition has changed, and that also is leading to a shift in there. So, given that gold is one of our major exports, uh, the drop in purchases, either by big purchasers like jewelries, big purchasers like central banks, and people shifting from investing in gold as a safe haven to investing in higher yielding bonds, not only in the United States, but Japanese bond yields are also increasing, could lead to less demand and therefore potentially some lower export numbers for us in the coming months. So that's something that we wanted to keep our eye out for when we're getting the economic data. Now, while Canada's trade surplus is doing well, the US trade surplus data also came out recently. And let's see if we have this for you. Um, okay, I'm gonna have to go to another source. I'm sorry, kids and cubs, nothing is working today. I'm just having a really tough time. Um, okay, let me see if I can find this here. Where I put the financial news. I try to double up in cases like this, so I'm not completely stuck, given that has happened a couple of times to me before. According to the Wall Street Journal, America's trade deficit was close to unchanged in April, adding evidence that the Trump administration's tariffs have done little to rebalance the U.S. trade position with the rest of the world. Imports in April grew by 2% to 383 billion, while exports rose by 2.6 to 327.1 billion. The Commerce Department said Tuesday. That yielded an April trade deficit of 55.9 billion, down about 1.2% severe versus the March level. Analysts polled by the Wall Street Journal were expecting an April decline of 56.1 billion. As build-out of U.S. AI infrastructure continues, imports of semiconductors rose by $1.7 billion and computer imports climbed by $2.2 billion. Meanwhile, exports of aircraft rose by $1 billion versus March. With the Iran conflict rupturing global energy markets, U.S. crude oil exports rose by $6.4 billion. More than a year of whipsawing tariff policy has caused dramatic swings in U.S. trade flows, but so far little fundamental change in America's identity as a major net importer. Since the start of President Trump's second term, the U.S. trade deficit has averaged just over $70 billion a month versus $72 billion a month on average during the Biden administration. So all of this tumult that we have been going through since that orange menace came back in the office was all for the United States to reduce their monthly, is it monthly? Yes, their monthly trade deficit by an average of $2 billion a month. God, this guy couldn't manage his way out of a paper bag. Trump's frequent adjustments to bilateral trade policies, often wielded last year as carrots and sticks in geopolitical negotiations, have abated in 2026 after the Supreme Court overruled Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or the IEEPA, to enact broader global trade tariffs. But Trump has also turned to other authorities as he continues to attempt to restrict American imports. In February, he enacted an across-the-board 10% tariff under a temporary authority that will expire in July. Last week, the Trump administration proposed new tariffs up to 12.5% on a group of 60 countries, a policy it seemed was aimed at curbing forced labor, which we know is BS because there is no greater system of forced labor than the United States school to prison pipeline, school to for-profit prison pipeline, where a lot of people there work in manufacturing for the luxurious sum of about 12 cents an hour. Just to say, it is not completely and utter total slave labor. And of course, if you choose not to work those shifts, well, then life can be more unpleasant for you. But the United States is against slave labor. It was just founded on it, though. The U.S. Constitution actually specifically allows it to. I think somebody told me it was Section 13 of the U.S. Constitution, if I remember correctly, the 13th Amendment, which officially abolished slavery and involuntary servitude. But it was ratified on December 6, 1865, and it states that neither slavery nor forced labor can exist in the United States or any place under its jurisdiction except as a punishment for a convicted crime. And the United States happens to be the nation on earth that has the highest percentage of its citizens in jail. But Donald Trump wants to make us believe that the United States stands against forced labor. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Not really. Not so much. Not so much. Let's see if we have anything more here. Just looking here, we have some stuff about Canada's trade surplus. Again, no additional information than I brought. So can move on to another subject here with regard to trade and economics. And that is that Canada has decided to extend tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminium for an extra year. According to Reuters, again, it says Canada will extend steel tariff rate quotas and tariff relief on certain U.S. steel and aluminium imports by 1 year, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne said on Wednesday, citing the need to shield workers from global excess capacity and give industry longer-term capacity certainty. My God, I'm having trouble today. The extensions subject to cabinet approval would run to June 27th and June 30th, 2027, respectively, with imports exceeding quota limits still facing a 50% tariff, the government said in a statement. So again, Canadian government making it clear that they do not intend to give to back down on that so long as the United States keeps doing it. Another bit of news that you guys were talking about in the chat yesterday, it seems that there is a ribbon cutting event for the Gordie Howe International Bridge connecting Ontario and Michigan that is set to go ahead later this week. According to Global News's Kelly Geraldine Malone, sorry, this is the Canadian press, as it appears in Global News, says that a source with knowledge of the plan, who is not authorized to speak about it publicly, said the event is tentatively scheduled for Friday. The Detroit Free Press has reported that Governor Gretchen Whitmer and former Governor Rick Snyder are expected to attend. It's not clear when the bridge will be open to traffic. The ribbon cutting will mark an important step forward for the bridge after U.S. President Donald Trump insisted in social media posts on February that the United States would have to be compensated before he would allow it to open. Soon after, Prime Minister Mark Carney said he spoke with Trump and expect the situation to be resolved. Whitmer and Canadian Infrastructure Minister Gregor Robertson's offices both pointed to the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority for comment. Tara Carson, the Authority Director of Communications, said the project's team is progressing well towards the spring opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge, which will be a vital economic link between the two countries. I'm guessing that when Mark Carney spoke to Donald Trump, he maybe explained it to him in terms that he can understand that the bridge is already built and it's already paid for, and there's much more U.S. goods that travel across the bridge to get into Canada than Canadian goods that travel across the bridge to get into the United States. So if Donald Trump doesn't want to open the bridge, he's basically punching himself in the dick. Maybe that changed his mind. Who knows? Maybe Donald Trump seems to love punching himself in the dick lately, so maybe he likes it. Who knows? Maybe he's a masochist. Hey, we don't judge. We don't judge. That's your kink, dude. Keep punching yourself in the dick. We don't mind. After all, it is Pride. By the way, a lot of people are joking about that UFC event that Donald Trump wants to hold on the lawn, also for his birthday, apparently, or something like that. I think it is, which also happens to be during Pride Month. And yeah, what better way to celebrate your birthday with a whole bunch of oiled up men, sweaty men, just climbing on top of each other. Happy birthday, Donald. Oh my God. Ah, jeez. The Gordie Howe Bridge, which connects Windsor and Detroit, was able to move ahead after Ottawa signed a 2012 deal with Snyder, a Republican. Canada agreed to shoulder the cost of construction and recoup its investment through tolls, after which the money would be split with the state. The bridge's ownership is shared between Michigan and the Government of Canada. The project has long faced significant pushback from members of the Maroon family, who own the competing Ambassador Bridge. House Democrats are probing whether the billionaire family took action to obstruct the Gordie Howe Bridge's opening. Well, we've heard other reports that said that there was some strategic phone calls placed at some point, just before that big announcement came on down from Donald Trump that he had a problem with it. The New York Times reported that Matthew Maroon had a meeting. Well, there you go. I should just read the damn article. The New York Times reported that Matthew Maroon had a meeting with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick just before Trump's social media post attacking the project. Representative Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, said in a news release at the time that President Trump's wealthy donors should not be holding secret meetings with administration officials to influence economic and foreign policies that have real impacts on the American people. The investigation calls for Lutnick and Maroon to hand over documents relating to their meetings and other communications with the White House about the bridge, among other things. Democrats also demanded all records about donations or payments from the Maroon family to the Trump campaign, Associated Political Action Committees, and Republican Party. The bridge is named after legendary Canadian hockey player Gordie Howe, who led the Detroit Red Wings to 4 Stanley Cup victories. Ground was broken in 2018, launching a construction of the bridge, but it has faced numerous delays. During a Senate hearing last week, Democratic Senator Gary Peters of Michigan asked Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin whether U.S. Customs and Border Protection was prepared for trade and travel at the bridge. Mullin said personnel are ready to move. He said a contractor hasn't signed off on any final stuff despite a May 1st deadline. So we're still waiting on that to take place, he said. We're prepared, we're staffed, we're ready to go. Mullin, however, added there's still negotiations between Canada and the United States that is not within his department, which will need to be resolved. So there you go, kids and cubs. Little bit of news there. Also, with regards to what we are doing on trade and investment for ourselves, the Xilisms pipeline project, which was deemed a major project, is also in the news a lot lately. According to the Canadian press, it says here that the lead developer of the Xilisms liquefied natural gas project planned for the West Coast has announced benefit agreements with 3 First Nations in northern British Columbia. Houston-based Western LNG said 2 of those communities, the Metlakatla First Nation and the Lax Kw'alaams Band, have in turn withdrawn their legal challenges to the federal approval of the $10 billion project. That is an interesting move. The third agreement is with the Githgala Nation. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hold on. Let me just go check, because I recently found a pronunciation guide, actually from the BC government, that is going to help me with that and get the pronunciations correctly. So I'm just going to find that there. The Githgala. No, sorry, that's incorrect. Let's try that one more time. Gitgathla Nation. There we go. Always trying to learn here at the Beaver Lodge. Always trying to learn. So the third agreement is with the Githgathla Nation. The benefit agreements cover aspects like economic development opportunities and climate initiatives for the affected communities. The other Xilisms partners are Rockies LNG, a consortium of Canadian natural gas producers, and the Niska Nation, on whose land the project would be built. Xilisms has recently announced preliminary supply deals with German utilities, and the partners aim to make a final go-ahead decision this year. Quote, "We have always envisioned the Xilisms LNG project as economically important for the entirety of Northwest BC, and we are pleased to see this vision materializing," said Eva Clayton, president of the Niska Nation. Now, in addition to that, BNN Bloomberg, also the Canadian press through BNN Bloomberg, has reported that a second German utility has expressed interest in purchasing liquefied natural gas from the Xilisms project planned for northern British Columbia. Dusseldorf-based Uniper and Xilisms LNG said Monday that they have signed a letter of interest that could see the company buy 2 million tons of gas a year, with deliveries beginning as early as 2032. Again, putting to lie Pierre Poilievre's claim that for some reason we absolutely need a gas pipeline going through the east because it's just quicker to get to Germany that way. Because apparently the genius conservative alleged policy wonk was not aware that in the way that global trade happens, that nations, uh, if they want natural gas, uh, they don't care really where it comes from when it gets to their customer, so long as they have the contract, because they can swap contracts. They can just swap. It's like the whole industry has thought of this before, thought about the whole geography thing. Like, if I'm in Germany and there's something wrong with a plant somewhere and everything is going through the West, do I have to wait all this extra time to get my gas? Or can I do something? No, just swap. We'll take this gas from here, which is closer to us, and then you in return can take our share that would be coming from the West. And we can get it faster, and you can get it faster. They swap. Apparently, Pierre was not aware of that. So now, again, as Pierre keeps on saying, geography lesson. Doesn't Mark Carney know that it's much quicker to get gas to Germany if we go through the east than go through the west? And we showed you the clip of the German ambassador to Canada saying that it doesn't really matter to them where it comes from because they can swap. So apparently, going through the West is so terrible, according to Skippy, that a second German company has decided to order gas from us that comes from the West. Okay. The letter of interest outlines key commercial terms for a firmer supply and purchase of agreement with Uniper, whose core markets are Germany, the United Kingdom, Sweden, and the Netherlands. Uniper has 18.5 gigawatts of power generating capacity and is a major LNG importer in northwestern Europe. The German government took it over amid the 2022 energy crisis following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but is now in the process of privatizing it. Diversifying Unifier's portfolio of LNG supply is a key priority, CEO Michael Lewis said in a news release. Canada offers an attractive environment with significant gas resources, strong political stability, and reliable regulatory framework, he said. Are you paying attention, Danielle Smith? Significant resources, strong political stability, and reliable regulatory frameworks. People like that, Danielle. Just saying. Quote, we see potential in projects like Sealism's LNG to further enhance the resilience and flexibility of our supply portfolio. Houston-based Western LNG is the lead developer and future operator of Sealism's alongside Rockies LNG, a consortium of Canadian natural gas producers and the Niska Nation on whose lands the project would be located. The floating plant would export up to 12 million tons of LNG per year from the site on Pierce Island by the Alaska border. The $10 billion project has regulatory approval, but the partners have yet to make a final investment decision. Locking down long-term supply deals is a key step towards that milestone. Quote, this project and Europe's interest in it demonstrates how energy security, climate responsibility, and community-focused economic development can be achieved together, says Davis Thames, CEO of Western LNG. LNG is a natural gas that has been chilled into a liquid state, enabling it to be shipped by sea on specialized tankers. Late last month, a German government-owned company Securing Energy for Europe, or SEFE, signed a preliminary agreement to buy 1 million tons of LNG per year from Sealism's over and up to a 20-year span. Germany would not seem to be a logical buyer for Western Canadian gas based solely on geography, but European countries have looked to source gas from places other than Russia, which had been their dominant supplier since that country's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The US-Israel war with Iran also halted LNG shipments out of the Middle East since late February, striking off another region from Europe's list of suppliers. Cargo from Sealism's could travel to Germany via the Panama Canal, provided vessels are small enough, or take the long way around South America or Africa, Tim Hodgson, the federal natural resources minister, said late last month when the deal with SEFE was announced. But more likely are so-called swap deals, where a European buyer could essentially trade cargoes with another company with a ship closer to the destination. The Uniper Sealism's announcement is better understood as a political move in both Canada and Germany than a genuine energy security advancement, said Alex Walker, energy analytics program manager at Environmental Defense. Quote, for Ottawa, this signals further momentum of the nation-building agenda. For Germany, it helps prove the value of the state-owned Uniper ahead of its sale, reassuring prospective buyers such as the Canada Pension Plan that the company holds long-term supply commitments. Reuters reported last week that the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board is among the possible bidders for Uniper. Walker also noted Sealism's prospects are clouded by First Nation opposition and pending legal challenges to the project and the pipeline that would feed it. Now, this is really interesting because in this case, it would mean that Canada is selling the gas to these other nations through Uniper, and the Canada Pension Plan might actually be a part owner of Uniper down the road. So Canada gets paid two ways on such deals. Not bad. Not bad. Walker also noted, nope, did I already read that? No, I don't think I did that. Walker also noted Sealism's prospects are clouded by First Nations opposition and pending legal challenges to the project and the pipeline that would feed it. Quote, despite what the headlines say, this project is far from a Canadian nation-building project waiting to happen. Richard Brooks, Climate Finance Program Director at Stand Earth, said the Uniper and SEFE announcements are, quote, more hype than reality, and that Sealism's, quote, American developer and its private equity backers are likely to reap the most benefits. Quote, this project is not in Canada's national interest and is nowhere closer to being built despite these smoke and mirror announcements. Okay, interesting. And who's Mr. Walker? Again, I'm going to look. Alex Walker, Energy Analytics Program Manager at Environmental Defense, is the one making these claims here at the end of this article. Okay. In other news that you may have heard, remember the We charity scandal that happened around the time when we were going to COVID, and the government had hired We Charity to be a flow-through organization through which money would go to support programs. I think it was an employment program, if I'm not mistaken, geared specifically to youth. And then there was a whole scandal that erupted as a result of it, and eventually the Kielburgers, the two young men that had started it, had to eventually, it led to their charity being shut down. It would appear that there's been a development, not so much with the charity co-founders, but regarding their mother, it would seem here. According to Mark Golum of CBC News, the editor and publisher of Canada Land agreed to apologize to the mother of the We Charity's co-founders as part of a settlement in a defamation lawsuit. But Jesse Brown said he's standing by the rest of the podcast that was critical of the organization. Brown told a Toronto courtroom on Tuesday that Canada Land, quote, wholly retracts the unfounded allegations it had made about Teresa Kielburger, who was 82 years old, in a 2021 podcast about We Charity. In the first episode of the podcast series entitled, quote, The White Saviors, allegations were made that Teresa Kielburger had placed hundreds of thousands of dollars of donations to the We organization into the family's personal bank account. Brown told the courtroom that Canada Land was, quote, wrong to have published that, and Canada Land apologizes, quote, unreservedly to her for the harm caused by the publication of those allegations. Brown also agreed to pay a total of $885,000 in damages and costs to Teresa Kielburger, mother of Mark and Craig Kielburger, who founded the We Charity. Quote, I've spent my life trying to do good for my family, for my community, Teresa Kielburger said in an emailed statement to CBC News. To have that called into question in such a callous manner was inexcusable. I'm glad this chapter is over. Brown said the We Charity scandal was never about Teresa Kielburger, but about her sons, Mark and Craig, and the operation of the charity itself. Quote, my apology in court today was a sincere one. The story was never supposed to be about Teresa Kielburger, he told CBC News in an interview. Then why did you include the information? Quote, our story stands. Our story about Mark and Craig Kielburger and We Charity, we stand behind all of that. Of course, this confession, essentially, that the told mistruths about their mother is leading a lot of people to wonder, yeah, you say you stand by the story because there's probably other lawsuits going on, but if you were inaccurate and sloppy about this, what else were you inaccurate and sloppy about? That's the question that is raised from this. We Charity became embroiled in a 2020 political scandal implicating then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who had failed to disclose that We Charity had paid his family speaking fees before his government awarded the nonprofit a major multi-million-dollar contract. The scandal prompted We Charity to wind down its Canadian operations. Unfortunately, this article does not also state that basically the scandal was a non-scandal because based on the definition that's out there in the conflict of interest legislation, the people who had received those funds were not included. It wasn't direct family. It wasn't, his wife, his kids, and whatnot. Right? I believe his mother, Margaret Trudeau, I believe, had received a couple of payments for coming to speak. But trying to link that, and because the money also the contract was for a flow through, that they would get a fee for administering it and doing the work, but none of the money in that contract was going. There's money going to we to administer the contract, but none of the money in the actual the funds that were being distributed were going to we, and because it was for employment opportunities for youth, none of that money, none of Trudeau's family was eligible to claim any of that money. So it turned out to be a non-scandal. The scandal prompted We to wind down its Canadian operations. Canada Land's 2021 five-part podcast series took a critical view of We Charity and its charitable activities, describing the podcast as, quote, an exclusive story of a charity that did well when it was supposed to be doing good. In a statement to CBC News, We Charity said that Brown had, quote, shown his true colors and that he is, quote, not a credible source on any reporting related to We Charity. The defamation case against Canada Land never went to trial, but a judge in 2024 rejected a bid to have it thrown out under SLAPP legislation, which is meant to protect people from lawsuits intended to silence critics or public debate. At the time, Ontario Superior Court Justice Edward Morgan found there was reason to believe the defamation claim against Brown and Canada Land had, quote, substantial merit. He ruled that the first episode left out crucial information and noted that Brown and Canada Land did not reach out to Teresa Kilberger to give her the chance to refute the allegation. According to a We Charity news release, Canada Land's full apology must be posted prominently and permanently on the Canada Land website and across every social media and podcast platform where the episode appears. An audio retraction must also be inserted into the original podcast episode, replacing existing versions on all platforms, the news release said. Meanwhile, CBC faces a defamation lawsuit by We Charity over the Fifth Estate's November 2021 story about the organization. The CBC has said that it stands by its story and will defend its journalism. So there you go. That happened. And in other news about podcasting gone wrong, we've talked to you a few times about Athana Metsalopoulos, who was the former CEO of the Alberta Health Services, who has gone after, has filed a wrongful dismissal suit against the government. And then we heard stories about other activities that had been happening, perhaps to tarnish her reputation or her character. At the end of May, according to Michelle Bellefontaine of CBC News, it seems that an Alberta court of King's Bench justice has cited podcasters David Wallace and James DeFiore for criminal contempt of court for harassing former AHS CEO Athana Metsalopoulos via a series of podcasts released last year. In the ruling released Friday, Justice Michael Lema found Wallace and DeFiore engaged in a campaign to vilify Metsalopoulos in order to discourage her from continuing with a wrongful dismissal case she filed against the provincial government. Quote, this is not journalism or opinion or commentary on matters of public interest, Lema writes. Quote, on the evidence to date, it is baseless humiliation and demonization of a litigant in this court for no apparent purpose other than sapping her will to continue with the case. Wallace was the host of the Political Dark Arts podcast, and DeFiore hosted the podcast titled Blackballed with James DeFiore. Full disclosure, we have had both of these people as guests on our show in the past. Um, any association that we have with them had come to an end before these stories had come out. Um, but you know, we have to own it. We had both of them as guests on the show. In fact, I would say that there was a time when Mr. DeFiore and I were friends. We are not anymore. His choice. Time. And so there, wanted to put it out there because people will turn around and say, "Well, yeah, but you've had them on the show." Yeah, we have. We have. There was a time. Earlier last year, Metsalopoulos sued AHS and then Health Minister Adriana Lagrange for wrongful dismissal, alleging she was fired for probing too deeply in the Alberta Health Services contracting and procurement deals. The health agency said in its statement of defense that AHS had lost confidence in Metsalopoulos' abilities. In his ruling, Lima listed statements made by Wallace in the podcast, including how he was retained by one or more people, quote, to take down Metsalopoulos or anyone associated with her lawsuit. He is asking the lawyers for both parties to agree on next steps and to submit their positions on the contempt issue by June 3rd. In addition to citing Wallace and DeFiore for criminal contempt, the judge granted a restraining order prohibiting them from making intimidating and harassing comments towards Metsalopoulos. He also granted an order directing the men to take down podcasts mentioning her that may remain online. Metsalopoulos filed an affidavit in March seeking access to material seized from the two men's homes via a rarely used Anton Pillar order late last year, which we reported on. Anton Pillar orders allow a search without prior warning if possible evidence is at risk of being destroyed. The court granted the order in response to a request by former AHS board member Sandy Edmonstone. We also reported about that. Edmonstone, who was a member of the AHS board when Lagrange dissolved it in January 2025, said he became a target of the two podcasters after it was revealed he could be called as a witness in the Metsalopoulos lawsuit. Metsalopoulos also requested an order directing the podcasters to disclose who is providing financial support in their campaign against her. Lima didn't grant those access or disclosure requests. He said Metsalopoulos will have to wait for the outcome of the Edmondston's request to get access to the material seized under the Anton Pillar order. Brett Code, lawyer for Metsalopoulos, said he and his clients are pleased but declined to say anything more than was stated by Justice Lima in his decision. CPC News has reached out to Craig Alcock, lawyer for Wallace and DeFiore, for comment. And I'm guessing that they didn't receive it at the time that the article was published. So there you have it, kids and cubs. Some news about that. Kit Linda asks, if this is criminal, could they go to jail for this? I would assume that it could be. I mean, it is. I think it is criminal. To defamation is criminal, but I mean, usually you don't go to jail for defamation. Usually, it will be some type of fine or whatnot. Now, if that is not paid or restitution was not made, perhaps then there is something. But I doubt very much. I would be surprised for this unless there's, like I said, there's other activity going on, which that would all be worked out in court of law. And I haven't read the statement of claims or anything of the sort to know that part specifically. We read the original statement of claim of Athana Metsalopoulos against her employer when she filed that. But we didn't we didn't bring the other ones to you. So I'm not sure, but I typically don't know of people who go to jail strictly for defamation. Now, with Carrie Tate, the journalist, there was some tailing and following, and pictures taken of her. Same thing with Sandy Edmonstone. There were pictures taken of him. Again, that type of stalking, tailing. Not sure again if that is something that gets added to it and then can create an offense that could lead to prison time. But the defamation on its own, probably not. Here. Let's see, what do we have here? Kit Linda M also saying here, no one who ever worked for an international NGO believed any of the story about we. Indeed. All right. Oh, could uncover the news here. Physicist Alan MacDonald becomes the first Canadian to win the Kavli Nanoscience Prize. Oh, I'm going to have to look at that, look that up when I get the chance here, because that might be a Canadian who makes us proud moment, because we love featuring people from the world of science who do really good things, particularly when they happen to be Canadian. All right. Let's see what else do we have for you today, kits and cubs. Ooh, yes. Since we're speaking a little bit about things in Alberta, there is some public opinion polling that came out very recently. That is not necessarily good news for Danielle Smith. hmm it seems that people are not all into uh, her uh, 9 questions that she has on the ballot. Um, Ipsos went out and did some public opinion polling on that, and turned out that those had only about 27% support. According to Lisa, who we like a lot, it seems that when it comes time to vote, they are going to, they put out a call to get 60,000 people to work the next to work the referendum, because it seems that each one of the questions, they're not going to have one ballot, they are each going to be on a color coded ballot, each on individual pieces of paper, which increases the likelihood that people might not answer all the questions, because there's no obligation to answer all the questions when you go and vote. So I'm not sure if they're going to be taking 10 each individual pieces of paper and then having 10 ballot boxes, and you have to go put one in each. And then you're going to have somebody, when you're going to register, having to give you 10 pieces of paper. Hopefully, those will all be assembled beforehand and given to people, rather than somebody going one, two, three. But that is going to make for a very long process when it comes to vote. And it seems that by law, all votes need to be counted within 48 hours. And given that we don't have one vote to count, but 10 and potentially 11, if Cord Lund's water not oil petition gets on, that's a lot of people. Usually it takes about, how would you put it? I think the last time there was an election, uh, they needed 13,000 workers to help. Here they're looking for 60,000. So almost 4 times the price in terms of salaries. And then Lisa was comparing the 1995 referendum in Quebec, where they needed $4.8 million to run that. And I went to the Bank of Canada calculator, and well, that turns into about $9.2 million in today's money. So this referendum thing is also very, very expensive, it would seem. But yes, it would appear that Daniel Smith is not getting the best news, according to Ipsos. Once again, it says a new Ipsos poll on behalf of Global News shows that Albertans disapprove of the job Danielle Smith is doing overall. And with respect to the issue of Alberta separation, the poll also shows that many Albertans on both sides of separation issue believe Danielle Smith supports the opposite side of their own. More Albertans, 56%, disapprove than approve 38% of the job being done by Danielle Smith as Premier of Alberta, including more than 4 in 10, or 42%, who disapprove strongly of her performance, versus 17% who strongly approve. 6% are undecided. Smith's approval is higher among men, 45% versus 31% for women. Younger residents, 45% of the 18 to 34 years versus 38% of the 34 to 54 years, and 31% of the 55 plus years. I'm going to guess that when you're older, and yet you've been hearing the Alberta mythology over and over and over again, and have more chance to travel the country, and have more chance to see all they're saying about the mythology, and how they're saying that they're working to fight for Alberta, and that, well, change doesn't really actually come. they're less likely to believe her, but the younger, fresh minds that have not had enough time to become cynical, I guess, are more inclined to believe the mythology. Think about it. 45% of 18 to 34-year-olds versus 31% of 55-plus-year-olds approve of Smith's performance. Smith has high approval among current UCP voters, 78%, and very low approval among both NDP voters, 14%, and undecided voters, 16%. Opposition and NDP leader Naheed Nenshi has a job approval rating of 39%, that is only 1 point higher than Smith. Like Smith, Nenshi also has more job disapproval, 44%, than approval. 17% are undecided. Nenshi's approval is higher among those under 55 years of age, 42% versus 34% for 55 years plus, and those living in Calgary, 44%, and Edmonton, 42%, compared to those of the rest in Alberta, 31%. Nenshi has a 78% approval rating among current NDP voters, compared to 21% approval among UCP voters and 15% approval among undecided voters. So if I'm looking at this, within their own voter bases, Smith and Nenshi have the same approval rating, but when it comes to the opposite voter bases, only 14% of NDP voters approve of Smith, whereas 21% of UCP voters approve of Nenshi. He actually has a little bit of an edge there. And undecided voters about equal. 16% of undecided voters like what Smith is doing, 15% like what Nenshi is doing. But the disapproval of Smith also extends to her handling of Alberta's separation, although those supporting separation are on her side. 58% of residents disapprove of how Danielle Smith and her government have handled the issue of Alberta potentially separating from Canada, including 44% who strongly disapprove. 1 in 3, 33% Albertans approve of the handling of this issue, 13% strongly, while 9% are undecided. While Smith has been criticized by some prominent Alberta separatists, her handling of this issue has the approval of 8 in 10. Of those who would vote for separation in a binding referendum. This compares to the approval of only 2 in 10 who would vote for Alberta to stay in Canada. So even among the seppies, it seems that the leaders of the movement are less trusted. Well, I should say even among the seppies. Among Albertans who are willing to vote for the question that would lead to a referendum, more of them approve of the manner that Danielle Smith has been handling it than the manner that the seppies, because actually we should call the reserve seppies, just for as at least likes to call them the cowboy hat and the crypt keeper and all of them. So yeah, they're not even making the case to their own people, to who they believe their own base is. So that would give a sign that the push maybe to get Danielle Smith out, led by the more hardcore separatists, is likely to fail here. Approval of how Smith and her government have handled this issue is higher among men, 40% versus 20%, 27% among women, and younger residents, 40% of 18 to 34-year-olds versus 35% of 34 to 54 and 26% of 55 plus. Approval is much higher among current UCP voters, 67%, than among NDP voters, 14%, and undecided voters, 13%. Overall, there are more Albertans who believe that Danielle Smith wants Alberta to separate from Canada, 48%, than there are Albertans who believe she wants Alberta to stay in Canada. So her big thing, no, I'm going to fight for Canada every day, I'm a federalist. Even Albertans are not buying that coming from her. Ouch. 21% of residents aren't sure whether Smith wants Alberta to stay or separate. So 48% believe that she's a separatist, and 21% are not sure. That's not good. Among those who would vote for Alberta to stay in Canada in a binding referendum, more think Danielle Smith wants Alberta to separate, 55%, than think she wants Alberta to stay, 26%. Among those who would vote for Alberta to separate from Canada in a binding referendum, more think Danielle Smith wants Alberta to stay in Canada, 53%, than think she wants Alberta to separate, 32%. So nobody believes her. The Federalists don't believe that she's a Federalist, and the Separatists don't believe she's a Separatist. She has ended up pleasing no one. Albertans have differing views on Danielle Smith's decision to proceed with the referendum related to Alberta's separation. 52% believed the bigger factor was to protect her job as the UCP leader and premier. Fewer than one third, 34% of residents believed the bigger factor was, quote, to find a legal way to allow Albertans to have their say on the province's future. 14% are undecided. Opinions on this issue are firmly split on party support. 67% of current UCP supporters say Smith's motivation was to allow Albertans to have a say versus 25% to protect her job. 81% of current NDP supporters say Smith's motivation was to protect her job versus 12% allowing Albertans to have a say. Undecided voters lean more towards job protection motivation, 50%, than allowing Albertans to have a say, 16%, 34% are undecided. Among decided voters in Alberta, the UCP has a statistically insignificant 3-point lead over the NDP in vote support. The UCP has the support of 48% of decided voters, down 5 points from the 2023 election, while the NDP is at 45%, up 1 point from the 2023 election. 6% support other parties. These results exclude the 25% of Albertans who are undecided or will not vote. Decided vote support is very close in Calgary, 48% NDP versus 47% UCP. And Edmonton, 48% NDP versus 44% UCP. The UCP has a 16-point lead in the rest of Alberta, 56% to 40. Not great news for Danielle Smith when it comes to that. And there is also not great news for Pierre Poilievre as well, because one of the Conservatives had been looking at when they're looking at their very dismal polling numbers. They're very, very, very dismal polling numbers. Was the Nanos poll, which is a rolling poll that comes out weekly, and they were looking at it because Nanos was showing a closing of the gap with the Liberals that had started that other polls were not showing, right? We recently had a Léger poll come out that was showing that if an election were to be held today, that the Liberals would actually pick up 50% of the vote and the Conservatives would pick 34, which is, that's a 16-point spread. That is ridiculously large, especially, when the other option is hitting 50%. Literally half the population. But with Nanos research, they were showing at some point, let's take a look, around 14, 13, 15-point lead for the Liberals for a decent amount of time. Looking back in time here and seeing, there we go. In February, it was Liberals +7. At the end of February, it was Liberals +11. And then early March, Liberals +13. Mid-March, Liberals +17. End of March, Liberals +13. Then Liberals +15. Early April, Liberals +15 again. Mid-April, Liberals +13, Liberals +14, and another one. End of April, Liberals +13 again. At the beginning of May, again, Liberals +13. So this had been along about 3-month stretch. And then again, around mid-May, that's dropped to Liberals +9. So it was the first polling company showing that the drop, well, other than Abacus, of course, and Angus Reid, which are leaning conservative. But of the ones that typically don't lean conservative, it was the first one to show the Liberal lead drop to below double digits. Then Liaison Strategies had one that said 9% somewhere along the way, and that one is closed in. But then the Nanos poll got down to showing Liberals +7, and was the one showing the most favorable. And given that it's a rolling poll week after week, one would indicate that if the number is being pulled down, the most recent number is even tighter. Well, within the space of, and this is not too long, I'm going to look at the date here. The date where it showed Liberals +7 was May 29th. June 5th. So literally 1 year, Nanos research is showing Liberals +13 again. an additional 6-point spread in 1 week. So it went from Liberals 40, Conservatives 33 to Liberals 42, Conservatives 29. That 29 recorded by Nanos. If I'm looking at all polls combined, there hasn't been a number under 30 for the Conservatives. I'm going back a lot. I am now looking, well, let's put it this way. The list that I have goes all the way to April 28th, 2025. There is no poll anywhere in Canada that showed the Conservatives under 30% until now. Wow. That is quite something. That's 29. Again, like I said, lowest result for the Conservatives in quite some time. NDP doing well, showing 13%. The Bloc at 7, the Greens at 6, and the PPC at 2. So the Liberals, I'm going to guess is from the election, are down 2% from the election. The Conservatives are down 12% from the election. The NDP is up 7% from the election. The Bloc up 1% since the election. The Greens up 5 since the election. And PPC up 1. That is absolutely something here. Hold on, I'll be able to show you the whole thing. There we go. Let's see. Oh my God, I didn't take down that little quote that's been up there the entire. Well, Alan McDonald sure got his news looked at for a really good moment here. But there, I'll put that up on the screen for you, kids and cubs, and you can take a look at that. So there you go. That's what it looks like here. This is not good news for Pierre Poilievre, especially since I think it was Althea Raj was indicating on an at-issue panel recently that there is now some grumbling, if you would, about Pierre Poilievre and maybe some people organizing to, or at least talking about life after him or trying to replace him. That is really, really, really interesting. According to preferred prime minister polling, same Nanos poll shows Carney at 49%, Poilievre at 23%, Lewis at 7%, May at 4%, Blanchet at 3%, and Bernier at 1%. Let's see, what else do they have here in some of this polling information. The most important issues, according to this Nanos poll: jobs in the economy at 21%, inflation at 13%, Trump-US relations at 8%, healthcare 7%, immigration and environment at 5%, housing and national unity at 4%, debt deficit at 2%, and change the government 2%. So yeah, again, not the greatest numbers for Poilievre, and hitting that record low in the public opinion polling is certainly not going to help him make the case that he is the one to lead this party into the future. Interesting. There is also additional public opinion polling coming from British Columbia now that there's been about a week of Carrie Lynn Finlay. And it says here, because the Conservatives there have been bragging a lot that if there was an election held today, that they would win. According to research company, it says the NDP is leading 35 to 34, with Liberals 15, Green 9, and Centre BC at 3, 1 BC at 3. And then let's see, what else do we have? There was another one by a research company. Not sure why these are different. I've got different numbers for them from this source here. Very weird. Oh, no. Okay, I guess this must have been a restatement. Sorry, because the numbers are pretty much the same. There was just, I guess there was a rounding error maybe in one of them. There we go. Really weird when you see two things that have the same date and the numbers are slightly different, and then you're trying to figure out why on the fly. Let's see, what else do we have here? In terms of in Ontario, if we're looking at Doug Ford, is this Doug Ford or is this federal? No, federal in Ontario. In Ontario specifically, the Liberals are sitting at 50%, while the Conservatives are at 34%, and the NDP is at 11%. If we're looking at Saskatchewan and Manitoba, the Conservatives are down to 48%, and the Liberals are down to 33%. The NDP has risen to 12 to 13% there. And of course, if we're looking at Alberta, the Conservatives remain at 50% there, while Liberals are up to 35%, and the NDP is at 11%. And Liberals have had a good increase in Alberta since the end of 2026, where they were hovering around maybe 26%, and now are at 35%. So that is some pretty good growth there. Federally in British Columbia, the Liberals sit at 43%, while the Conservatives are at 33 to 34, and the NDP is up to 15. The Greens are also up to probably around 7 or so, from what I can tell in this poll. So there's a little bit of movement if we're looking at it, but the movement for the Conservatives is mostly down. Liberals are pretty much staying steady, maybe a little bit down by a point or two here or there, depending. But considering that we are well into one year past, the beginning of this being a full government, that's pretty, considering that Abby Lewis seems to be doing the right things and getting some traction. What's really interesting, it seems, is that the NDP is reclaiming a lot of the vote that it had lost to the Conservatives in the last election, but not so much at the expense of the Liberals. According to a Leger poll, also, when we're talking about British Columbia, this one's from June 2nd, when asked about the preferred premier, EB comes in at 30%, Findlay making her debut at 27%, and Lowen of the Greens at 6%, with none of them getting 13, and Unsure 19. So there you go. Not ideal numbers for people and parties involved in the conservative movement, but Danielle Smith in particular taking a big hit here. She seems to have no credibility with anybody except, in particular, young male voters specifically. Other little bit of news, just a little tidbit. You'll remember that I was showing you some images of Pierre Poilievre delivering a speech saying that we need a culture of, or maybe not a culture it is, but delivering more hope than we need to be delivering fear, right? And him trying to make the case that it's the Liberals who push fear and that are divisive and all of that kind of stuff. Well, the day after making that big speech and him presenting himself as the guy that was going to bring us hope rather than fear, posts a tweet. Mark Carney's EV deal with Beijing is a national security risk that threatens our auto sector. Okay. so, so much for that being a bringer of hope rather than a bringer of fear, I guess. Alberta, also some news. Journalist Sean Amato from Global, who we announced a couple of days ago, had said that he was looking at his next move. His next move was announced. Sean Amato has put out an announcement that says, "Very excited to announce." I've said announce 3 times in one sentence there. Very excited to announce I'm joining the Alberta NDP caucus as a director of communications. So that is pretty interesting for him. I'm actually going to go and find his full tweet because what I have here is a screen cap and he had more to say. But Sean Amato, who has done some excellent journalism, his work on the show, he said, "These are pivotal times for the province I was born and raised in, and Albertans deserve a good, honest, pro-Canada government." Well, just to prove, for some reason, that being a dick seems to be the entry price for being a conservative operative in Canada these days. Daniel Smith's right-hand man, Rob Anderson, who, again, just can't. Anyway. Dreams do come true, Sean. It just shows that if you dedicate every day in your media career inventing creative anti-UCP narratives and torquing stories, the Alberta NDP will find a way to repay your loyalty. We knew you'd get there one day, big guy. Congrats. Yes, because Rob Anderson has no history of dedicating every day in his particular career and inventing creative anti-NDP narratives and torquing stories. Clearly, with which he has a problem. And then we reported yesterday again that Andrew Coyne took a little strip off of Mr. Anderson himself when he was announcing that Alberta is booming. And Andrew Coyne said, Alberta's booming under that oppressive federal yoke, under the 9 bad laws? You mean the richest province in Canada is getting even richer? And then Rob Anderson, the useless, mindless drivel from Canada's chief Laurentian elite, Representative Andrew Coyne. And then he goes on to a whole other thing like this where he gives a whole bunch of other mythology there, ending with the reason for the block, Andrew, is I simply don't value your opinion on the affairs of Alberta. You show your disdain for our province at every opportunity, but I don't need you clogging my feed with your 20 times a day posts. But I will instead merely mute you so you can still follow my posts, as I don't wish to hurt your feelings. Have fun on that wonderfully balanced CBC at issue panel, trying to unpack the important issues distressing Albertans with your fellow Toronto-Montreal panel. Christ, what an asshole. But it seems that people are getting under Mr. Anderson's skin. That's that toxicity that I keep on talking about. It's like, oh, well, you're a journalist and you say something that happens to be true about our political party or our political movement that also happens to be unflattering. So therefore, we just call you a Laurentian elite and we dismiss you. Cord Blunt has his petition. We just say, like Brett Wilson did, that, well, you're funded by the NDP and therefore we dismiss you. It happens to me all the time. You have pronouns in your on your bio. Therefore, that's enough for me to dismiss everything you say. A journalist gets a job as a director of communications for a party, and therefore that is proof that all their previous journalism was tinged, because it's completely unfathomable to these people that you can do your job with integrity. It's always, you always notice that it's people with integrity that they punch down on, because they have none. They can't imagine a world. They can't imagine a world in which people who do the media journalism part are not somehow paid by the party. Alberta, right? Where Kean Bexte's thing got a lot of financial support. The counter signal, I think it was, got a lot of support from the UCP government, particularly when it comes to advertising purchases. But yes, all the other journalists, the ones that work for Global TV and CBC, are paid and have some financial incentive from political parties to report and torque everything about the Rob Andersons and Daniel Smiths and whoever of the world. But no, it doesn't happen the other way around at all, though. That whole influencer thing, right? That's going on. You keep on being invited and given special access to all these events. No. There's no connection. They all do that out of the entirety goodness of their hearts, right? Everything that those really, really biased in favor of the conservative position of the day, all of that is completely and totally organic, right? There's no support whatsoever. think I think there are some people who might be protesting a little too much. My God, already 1 hour 51 minutes. I haven't even felt like I mean, like I said, it's a little bit of potpourri stuff today, but wow. So I guess we should talk about the World Cup a little bit because there's a lot going on. Yesterday's big thing seems to be that there was a referee from Somalia that was going to make history for his country by refereeing matches in the United States. I guess who was not allowed to enter the United States, and it appeared that Premier David Eby has put out some missives saying, "Hey, FIFA, send him to officiate some games in Vancouver. We'd be happy to have him." Apparently, Merritt Stiles of the NDP in Ontario also said the same thing, which is kind of interesting. News. As we mentioned yesterday, in their second of two pre World Cup preparatory matches, Canada tied Ireland 1-1. Maxime Crépeau, who has had earned the nod as the number one goalkeeper for the World Cup, showed he was the man for the job and apparently delivered a stellar performance before his hometown fans at the Stade Saputo. Despite being the better side most of the evening, Canada surrendered the first half lead and played to a disappointing 1-1 draw against lower-ranked Ireland in its final tune-up. The result could have been worse if not for Crépeau. Said he's our number one midfielder Ismail Kone said, "It's not for nothing." Of course, Canada opens the World Cup against Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2 days, on the 12th in Toronto, before heading to Vancouver for group stage matches against Qatar on the 18th and Switzerland on the 24th. Canada is the second-ranked team in their table, so it could be very likely that not only does Canada score its second goal, because we have scored one in World Cup history, but we might actually move to the playoffs for the first time, should everything go well, which is kind of interesting here. So yes, very interesting result there. In that match, Canada scored thanks to an own goal from Ireland defender Jake O'Brien in the 23rd minute of a one-sided first half. So actually Canada didn't score in that match. Whoops. Apparently, Canada did drive the play in the first half, holding 67% possession on Ireland as Ireland waited for opportunities on the counterattack, but they led 9-1 in shot attempts, 1-0 on target. So there you go. It seems here that also we found out that there is a trying to figure out here. Um, trying to see if I can get a first name here. There's a Canadian player whose last name is Eustachio. I wish I could see his first name for some reason, but I cannot see it anywhere. Oh, Stephen Eustachio. There we go. Wore the captain's armband because Alfonso Davies is still working his way back from a hamstring ailment. The star wingback is one of several Canadian players recovering from injury on the 26-man roster. Marsh, the coach, said Thursday that Canada would be patient with Bombito, who plays for France's. Whoops, what's that? We were talking about Alfonso Davies. Why are we talking about Bombito all of a sudden? Oh, maybe that's his nickname, of course. Um, who plays for France's OGC Nice club at club level. Quote, we're going step by step. He had a bit of a reaction after the game in Uzbekistan, so it's taking a little bit more time. He's a guy that we're giving every opportunity to rebound from this and show that he can be ready to play, and we haven't even started talking about secondary options. Of course, Marcelo Flores, who's a midfielder. I am having trouble speaking today. This cold is really fogging me up. Who injured himself in Friday's exhibition. They have indeed named the person who would replace him. Jada Nelson got the call to replace, to step up. It says here, according to an article by Chris Jones in CBC, when Jada Nelson found out that he will replace the injured Marcelo Flores on Canada's 26-man roster, he found out that his World Cup dream would be one that came true. The first call was to his grandfather. Oh, how cute is that? So Nelson grew up in Brampton, and he says that there's something a little discombobulating about a home World Cup. For better and for worse, the men's tournament have been staged lately at a string of exotic locales, at least by Western standards: South Africa, Brazil, Russia, Qatar. The cities have been unexplored. The stadiums have been glittering anew. For Canada's men, everything about Toronto is familiar, even intimate, especially for the national team members who also play for Toronto FC. Like Nelson, they've suffered on the same training grounds thousands of times, and they will be able to summon the view from their hotel rooms from a memory when they were 80 years old. So yeah, this guy here, Nelson, gets the call up. Canada is ranked 30 in the standings. Switzerland ranked 19th. Qatar, I believe, ranked in the 50s, and Bosnia-Herzegovina ranked, I think, 61st. So again, things are looking very good for Team Canada. According to Andrew Johnson of CTV, however, things don't seem to be going all that well for the event. It would appear that in Vancouver and Toronto, the hotels are less than half full for what is coming up. And again, we're hearing stories in the United States. In fact, in the United States, we're hearing that the coach of the United States team actually has his next gig lined up, and that there's a lot of people that wouldn't be surprised if he actually went to his new job before all of this is over. There's also some lots of claims that the U.S. team might not get out of the group play stage this year, and that would the coach would not be mad at that at all. Actually, according to this article, with days to go before the FIFA Men's World Cup matches kick off in Canada, new data is backing up whether or not this data backing up statements by hotel managers and whatnot that they are not as full, and they're raising new questions on whether expectations for accommodation demand in host cities were overblown. And data provided to CTV News by hotel analytics firm CoStar, as of June 1st, hotels in Vancouver and Toronto remain less than half full on World Cup match days, despite months of predictions that the tournament would lead to a surge in demand as hundreds of thousands of fans descend on each city over the course of a total of 13 matches. Yet the two Canadian host cities, according to CoStar, are actually doing much better than most in terms of booked accommodations for the World Cup, being shared by cities in Canada, US, and Mexico. Vancouver and Guadalajara, Mexico, are leading the tournament in hotel occupancy on game days at just under 48%. Toronto isn't that far behind at 47%. San Francisco is the only American city with more than 40% booked. But the data indicates Vancouver occupancy is down dramatically from last June when the city was at 64.5% booked. It's a drop of more than 25%, explained by Concordia University sports economist Moshe Lander, as economic destruction not taken into account in most FIFA revenue projections. Quote, for every tourist that comes here and says, hey, I'm going to spend $1 here, there's probably a tourist that would have been coming to Vancouver in June that said, I'm no longer coming because the World Cup is going to be there and I don't want to be around that chaos. Toronto's data is similar. The city hotels, according to CoStar, were close to 60% booked on days measured in June 2025. During the tournament, occupancy currently sits at just over 46%, a drop of almost 21. In Vancouver, the hospitality sector believes last-minute bookings will still make a big difference. Quote, it's exactly what we thought was going to happen, said Royce Chwin, president and CEO of Destination Vancouver. Bookings have been increasing week over week by double digits. We're still behind, but we've gained a massive amount of ground. Chwin feels many fans who have matched tickets may be waiting on booking a hotel to see if prices will come down further. Airbnb told CTV News it doesn't provide data of how many listed properties are still available, but confirmed that 70 to 80% of its remaining listings in Vancouver and Toronto during June are currently priced below $500 per night. Yeesh. And some breaking news here. The Bank of Canada has held its key rate steady for the fifth consecutive time, according to the Canadian press. The bank rate remains at 2.25%. And it says that the Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem said in prepared remarks that the economy was softer than expected in the first quarter of the year, but global oil prices are also staying higher than first thought, which could keep the annual rate of inflation near 3% for the next few months. The Bank of Canada can't effectively respond to rising inflation and a weaker economy at the same time, so Macklem says leaving the policy rate unchanged balances those risks. The central bank sees a rebound in economic growth on the horizon, but Macklem warns uncertainty is high around the war in Iran and U.S. trade policy. He says the Bank of Canada will keep looking through the short-term rise in inflation tied to the oil shock from the Middle East conflict, but he reiterates that the central bank will act to prevent price pressures from becoming entrenched. So that was a quick summary of that. Let's see if there's anything else that we have here for you today. I think that is the main stuff that I wanted to get out to you. I think there was let me just see, there was something about Ebola, I think, to you today, even though we have hit. Do I have it here? You know what? I will bring that to you tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll have another slow news day, and I will be able to bring you that. So, Kits and Cubs, for now, I'm going to say that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. Tell your peeps and poops all about us. Excuse me just for a second, Kits and Cubs. I have to go off camera for a second. I really need to blow my nose. There we go. Thank you for that, Kits and Cubs. Sorry, I was having a lot of trouble focusing there. So yes, please share our content here, Kits and Cubs. If you scan this QR code, that will bring you to our YouTube page. If you're not already there, click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. If you are listening to this fewer than 7 days after it has aired and you are listening on your phone, please swipe left on the comment box section to grant us some hype points that helps smaller channels like us gain some viewership and visibility. And you can do that 3 times per week. Also, if you would like to support us financially, you can make a contribution via the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund by scanning this QR code, and that will bring you there. That's at our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And you can make a one-time or recurring donation that you can stop anytime you want. You're not locked in there. And we get about 95 to 97% of your donation. If you donate via YouTube with super chat, stickers, or buy membership, we get about 70%. And if you're doing the buy Canadian thing, we get 100% of your donation when you make a bank transfer to us directly using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver at gmail.com. So thank you for all that you do to support us that way. Because democracy is something that you do, again, we have our three petitions, Kits and Cubs. Petition, our commons.ca petition E7124, which has 24,387 signatures to date, and it calls on the House of Commons to formally review the conduct of U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra and to take diplomatic measures, including the possible request for his recall, if that is deemed to be up. I will include the link here in the chat. Kit Sussy going, why do we have sexy Mr. Grizzly as your cover picture? He's the one that said it. That's I guess he said it when he was doing his own show, and I do not know how to put another one on. So you get your dose of sexy grizzly. When I have to go off camera to blow my nose. That's the best explanation I got for you. Sorry. I wish I had a better one, but I don't. We also have House of Commons petition, ourcommons.ca petition. Pardon me. Oh, sorry. Petition number ourcommons.ca petition E7395, which is calling upon the House of Commons to stop funding Stornoway as a private residence for the leader of the official opposition. 11,873 signatures on that one. And here it is in the chat for you. And the final one that we have, of course, is House of Commons petition, ourcommons.ca petition E7340, which is one that asks the House of Commons to invoke its authority under Section 53 of the Supreme Court Act to refer the 2025 Alberta Justice Statutes Amendment Act to the Supreme Court to see if it's constitutional, and to direct the Foreign Influence Transparency Commissioner to immediately investigate the meetings between the Alberta Prosperity Project and the Trump administration. And this one here is at 38,138 signatures, looking very good for it to hit at least 40,000 before the deadline. And I'm going to add that here for you. There is another thing that was brought to my attention the other day by one of our kits, and hopefully it's a Canadians that make us proud thing, or democracy is something that you do. So I just wanted to take a look at that and absolutely be sure that I'm bringing it to you the right way. Let's see here. Nope, that was about ranked choice voting. There you go. I can mention this. This comes from a kit, FF Suze, who follows us on our Blue Sky channel here. And this comes from Charlie Angus, who is asking Canadians to ask Canada's Commissioner of Foreign Interference for an investigation into the role of the Trump regime in the Alberta separatist movement. So very similar to the petition here that we brought to you. Petition. Which one is it? 724? No. The most one. Yes. So yes, ourcommons.ca petition 7340. This is an addition. Charlie Angus is asking for you to participate in a letter writing campaign or a call campaign to Canada's Commissioner of Foreign Interference in order to request that type of information. So I'm going to put this up for you. Show. Nope, that's not the one. There we go. This is the one that I want to show. my advertisement full here. There you go. So this is the address, Public Safety Canada, 269 Laurier Avenue West, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A-OP8. Again, Public Safety Canada, 269 Laurier Avenue West, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A-OP8. Telephone number 1-800-860-3118. Again, that's 1-800-830-3118. Going to leave it on screen there for a little bit to give you time to grab a pencil and or pen, piece of paper, and jot that down. But yes, Charlie Angus asking you to take a moment to send a letter or place a call. Sorry here. What's going on? Why is this doing this? Oh, I'm having a day today. There you go. Sorry about that, kids and cubs. Asking you to write Canada's Commissioner of Foreign Interference to ask for that type of investigation. So there you go. All right. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Don't catch a cold. Get plenty of rest. Yeah, I got nothing for you today, kids and cubs. I'm apologizing here. This is definitely not anywhere near my best episode. With things behind paywall that didn't work, and really difficulty focusing and reading and pronouncing and everything. So apologies for my extremely subpar performance today. Hopefully I'll have something better for you tomorrow. But some days you do what you can, and today that's all I had for you. I'm so sorry I couldn't have done something a little better. Because it was just disjointed and going a little bit everywhere, and I'm sure I was very hard to follow today. So normally I try to organize things in little packs, and I got thrown right off the bat when my first story didn't do, and never really actually recovered. So if you want to know what doing a show is like when you're scrambling from subject to subject and having trouble focusing, today was that day for me. But I will do better tomorrow. I promise. So yeah, I guess those the words of wisdom. If on the one day your best is not good enough, pledge to do better tomorrow. There you go. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And if at the count of 3, could I have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let me hear you. Oh, yes. That is the good stuff there. So here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. And we'll be back with a very short Canadians Who Make Us Proud, given that I'm already way over time. All right, here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right. Are you there? There you are. Okay. There is one piece I forgot to bring you, which was going to be in original package of the main story. So I'm going to do it now, even though I'm going to go over this one's whatever today. So, but we mentioned that the Prime Minister was looking at loosening some environmental laws again, despite C5 having passed, and this was from general projects. It would appear that after feedback from thousands, this is according to David Thurton and Kate McKenna, that the government is going to slow down the sweeping environmental changes that it was hopefully trying to get through before the end of this session. It seems that stopping short of admitting they were moving too far or too fast, the government said it would extend the public engagement period until July 22nd. In a statement on Thursday, the federal government said it had received, quote, valuable feedback from thousands of stakeholders, Indigenous groups, and members of the public across the country, underscoring the importance of these issues to Canadians, and therefore ending the consultations. This is not a rare thing. It happens frequently enough here. Among the suite of measures were designating pre-approving development in certain federal economic zones, giving the federal cabinet limited power to exempt projects from the jeopardy test for species at risk. The Assembly of First Nations called the proposed changes, quote, not acceptable, and said they demonstrated, quote, a pattern of exclusion. On Wednesday, many of Canada's environmental and conservation groups assembled on Parliament Hill to oppose the government's proposal. Quote, by gutting the laws that guarantee fundamental environmental protections, this government will only be fast-tracking preventable and in some cases irreversible harms to communities and ecosystems, said Kimberly Sheeran, the executive director of the environmental law charity EcoJustice. Some, including Carney's former cabinet minister Stephen Guilbeault, said the government's approach was beyond what Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper implemented. The Liberals under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau later reversed some of those measures. The Carney government justified the changes by arguing Canada needs to fast-track nation-building projects that strengthen the economy and help diversify exports away from the US. But I guess the Carney government also realized that if you don't pay attention to the environmental stuff at the beginning, at the front end, then that leads to protests and things that will block these projects being developed at the other end. And therefore, it was probably wise to pump the brakes a little bit and do more consultation because, participative management principles always indicate that it takes longer to reach a decision, but once you reach the decision, it takes less time to implement it because everybody has bought in because they felt that they have been heard or that they have a piece or a stake in the decision. The government never said when it planned to introduce legislation, but had it stuck with the plan to wrap up consultations on June 7th, it could have tabled a bill before the House of Commons rose for the summer. With razor-thin majority government, the bill was all but certain to pass through Parliament. In Thursday's statement, the government suggested it plans to introduce legislation after Parliament returns in September. So they weren't looking to pass it, but they were looking to at least introduce it before they broke for the summer. And I guess they were planning to then maybe talk about it a lot during the summer about how they're going to make those progress. But instead, they're going to be talking about more consultation, which is probably the smarter way to go, given that it couldn't pass now. And we do have the summer months. Why not use it for extra consultation? It won't slow anything down. So this is probably a smart move on the government. And considering all the pushback they got to C5, they certainly didn't want a repeat of that, particularly with First Nations, Inuit and Métis communities. So I can see why they made that decision. About news about Canadians who make us proud, kids and cubs. Oh yeah. See, this is another thing I wanted to bring to you. Sorry. One more thing before I get to Canadians who make us proud. The federal government's new Canada Groceries and Essential Benefit saw its first round of quarterly payments go out on June 5th. So you probably have received it already if you qualify. The benefit was known previously as the GST-HST credit, so people who were eligible for that program will likely receive the new benefit. And according to the Globe and the Canadian Press, here's what you need to know about the program. The government estimates about 12 million Canadians are eligible before the quarterly payments of the grocery benefit begin. Eligible recipients will receive a one-time GST-HST payment top-up to cover the transition period between the old program and the Canada Groceries and Essential Benefit. Eligible Canadians are set to receive the one-time top-up on June 5th. It's based on your 2024 tax return. The government has set a maximum income level to qualify for the top-up, with the maximum 2024 income level for a single person with no children being $56,181 and $74,201 for a single person with 4 children. The maximum 2024 income level for a top-up for a married or common law couple with no children is a combined 59,481, while it's a combined income of 74,201 for a couple with 4 children. The maximum payment for a single person with no kids is 267, while the maximum for a single person with 4 children is 717. The maximum payment for a married or common law couple with no kids is $349, while the maximum for couples with 4 kids is $717. Um, for the quarterly Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit payment amounts that are going to be also increased, those payments are based on the 2025 tax returns. The first quarterly payment will begin in July, with other payments expected to follow in October, January, and April. The maximum annual benefit a single person can receive for the grocery rebate is $679. The maximum annual grocery and essentials benefit for a married couple or common law couple is $890, and the annual grocery benefit for each eligible child under the age of 19 is an additional $234 per year. So you go. That's some news you can use. With regard to some Canadians who make us proud, this is from here in right here in Kingston, according to Bill Hall from the Kingston Whig Standard. A grade 9 student from Kingston Secondary School is being recognized among Canada's top young scientists after winning a major award at the country's premier STEM competition and advancing a theory that challenges current understanding of the universe. Liam Desri took home the Best Project Award discovery at the 2026 Canada-wide Science Fair in Edmonton, where nearly 400 finalists from across the country competed for close to $2 million in prizes. His project proposes a new model explaining the expansion of the universe, one that does not rely on long-standing but still unconfirmed concept of dark energy. Quote, "It was very rewarding," Desiree said, adding he was initially surprised by the win given the strength of other competing projects. Quote, "There was so much other good work that the fact that I stood out was something I didn't fully process at the beginning." The Canada-wide Science Fair, organized by Youth Science Canada, is the country's largest youth STEM event, bringing together top students from grades 7 through 12 who advance through regional competitions. This year's event featured 390 finalists presenting 344 projects at the Edmonton Expo Centre and the University of Alberta. Scientists have long known that the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate, but the cause remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in modern physics. Desiree's project, titled, quote, "A New Perspective on the Universe, The End of Dark Energy," uses computer simulations to propose an alternative explanation rooted in thermodynamics, the same principles that govern black holes. Quote, "I propose that maybe the same principles that work in black holes could work for the universe as a whole," he said. His model was able to reproduce observed patterns in cosmic expansion with approximately 93.4% accuracy, while also offering potential explanations for discrepancies that have challenged cosmologists for years. Desiree began working on the project as just 11 years old, driven by a growing interest in the astronomy sparked by images of space. Quote, "I kind of got curious about what I saw in these pictures, why they're so beautiful," he said. "That's what got me into astronomy, and then I realized I needed math and physics to understand it." Over 3 years of research, he encountered repeated setbacks, particularly in coding and calculations, but said persistence and confidence in his core hypothesis helped him continue. Quote, "If there was a mistake, I assumed it was something I did in the process," he said, "so I would go back, correct it, and keep going." Desiree was one of several Ontario students to dominate the national awards, with 5 of the 6 top honors going to participants from Kingston, Waterloo, London, and Toronto. Among them was Waterloo's Gurnor Kaur, who won the Best Project Award, Innovation for correcting a decades-old flaw in blood oxygen sensors that had contributed to higher mortality rates among Black patients. In total, more than 250 judges evaluated projects spanning fields from astrophysics to medical technology. Randy Barlow, Executive Director of Youth Science Canada, said the achievements highlight the potential of young researchers. Quote, "When a grade 9 student proposes a credible alternative explanation for the expansion of the universe, it demonstrates what young people are capable of when their curiosity is encouraged and supported," she said. Desiree's work has now earned him a place on Team Canada for the 2027 Milset Expo Science International in Sharjah, United Arab Emirates, a global competition featuring a select group of just 33 Canadian students. He said the next step will be to seek peer review and potential publication of his findings. Quote, "It's always good to get more options," he said. "To me, it seems plausible, and it also did to the judges, but I want to see what experts think." Despite his advanced work, Desiree said a few of his peers share a specific interest in astrophysics, though he has found inspiration in friends pursuing other scientific fields. And at the National Fair, however, he did find a community of like-minded students. Quote, "You can connect with them and share ideas in a way you can't always do otherwise," he said. With plans to pursue a future in physics research in academia, Desiree said the experience has reinforced his path and opened new doors. How about that? How about that? I tell you, we have some the kids are all right, man. In this country. I tell you, we have some really incredible people achieving some wonderful things here. Um, all right, kids and cubs, that's all I got for today. I've yammered on long enough. I'll see you tomorrow. Amour et bisous. Yeah, um, rest well today. I know I'm going to be doing that. All right. Bye, everybody.